Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's the No Level Cap podcast. This week, we're talking about Batman Returns. Boy, what a fucking movie this is. Like I said, we're talking about Batman Returns this week. Let's get it started. Let's do a real quick roll call. We've got two of our soldiers out this week. My boy Rakeem, my boy Devin. I hope they get to feeling better like very soon. We miss them. Can't wait to have them back next week. But what's good, Terrence?
Hey man, things are good on my end. I don't. I was trying to think of a joke to lead into this, but I really don't have one. I'm very interested to see what everyone's thoughts are going to be on this because this is, man, this is one of those films. Watching it in hindsight, not hindsight, but watching it nowadays is like, man, I don't know what they were thinking back in the '90s.
What's going on, Will?
The 90s was a nice time, but some films weren't, aging too well by the time we got to here. So, yeah,
Well,
we'll get there. Some didn't age too gracefully.
I have thoughts. I have what might be a controversial thought, or it might not be a controversial thought. We'll see when we get there. First off, let's get some basic information out of the way. Batman Returns had a screenplay by Daniel Waters, directed by Tim Burton again, just like the last film. It debuted about 3 years after, which is actually pretty quick for back in the day. Like they were wasting no time. They were like, we want to get another one off the ground. So it debuted June 19th, 1992. Cost about $80 million to make. Got a box office return of $266.8 million, which is considerably less. Like it cost more to make and made much less because the last movie made around $411 million. So like we already on our way down. It's just like with the Superman films. Every movie makes less and less money, and it's like, okay, well, and every movie is, well, we'll get into that part in just a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the take point. We talked about it before the podcast, and I'll probably need to take point. So I'm gonna say this. One, Kid Me. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Kid Me was right. Now this may be because I just hated 1989, or I didn't hate it, but I just didn't like it that much. But Kid Me was right. Batman Returns is a more interesting, better film than Batman 1989. I did not really care for Batman 1989. I thought Batman was a fucking goof in that film. Joker was okay, but like the way the suit, the way the city was designed was cool, but so much of that film just didn't work for me. And comparatively, that's the key word there. Comparatively, Returns to me is a better film than the OG Batman. But one thing I will say is you can tell, like they say, Tim Burton, like basically to get him back to making Batman, he had no interest in doing it, and basically to get back into it, they were like, "Hey, we'll let you do whatever the fuck you want." And boy, you can tell he got a chance to do whatever the fuck he wanted, because it's like the film is very much Batman by Tim Burton as opposed to like it's like Tim Burton's Batman, not Batman by Tim Burton. That's how that is. And it's like, fuck. Because it starts off with Oswald's parents. Like, it opens up with, like, just... Even though just thinking about it was, like, wild, it opens up with Batman, with, like, Oswald's parents. And, like, the dad is just looking out of a window while his son is being born. And then they're like, hey, you go back there and look. He go back there. They don't show anything. They just show him opening the door, close the door. You don't see anything back there. It's just him screaming like, fuck, my son's a freak. And it's just like, and it's all downhill from there. They don't even try to raise their kid. Like they basically dump him in the sewers like minutes after he ate the pet cat. They was like, this kid fucking sucks. He ain't gonna be shit. Just go ahead and dump him in the fucking sewers. And I'm like, there had to be a better way to get rid of this child. Like you could have put him up for adoption. You had people you could have paid. You could have like, hey, pretend like it's your kid. Take it over there to the adoption agency. We don't want to see this fucking freak again. You could have done any number of things. But they were like, nope, we're gonna pretend like we're normal. Go on a walk with our baby. Up, whoops. And then just dumped him in the fucking over a fucking bridge. I'm like, why would you do that? And how did that kid survive? They're like, oh, he got raised by penguins. I'm like, how would a penguin raise? Never mind.
Moreover, why are there penguins in Gotham?
Why are there
very
penguins
good question
underneath Gotham at that? Why are they there? Like, who put them there? It's weird. One thing I noticed, I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but like Batman really ain't in the film for like the first half of the film.
I 100% noticed that.
I definitely seen that.
I'm about like, this ain't a Batman film.
It ain't. And you know what? I think Tim Burton said he said he wasn't interested in coming back and doing a big budget corporate film like that. And it shows, because like Batman's not in that film at all. I didn't notice it at first, but like it was setting up all this stuff. There's Max Schreck. There's the Red Triangle gang who looks suspiciously like Joker leftover gang members. There's Catwoman's origin, all this shit. And then like Batman's really only in it for the first 45 minutes. He's only in it for like maybe 3.5 minutes, like enough to beat up the Red Triangle gang. And then he's just gone. And then you see him again for like a few seconds because he's like watching Penguin after he first comes back and comes to Gotham. And he's like, oh, his parents, he's looking for his parents. I hope he finds them. And that was it. That's all you get of him. Like 2 scenes across 45 minutes. The movie's only 2 hours long, and already you're like a third of the way through the film, and you're like, yep, he's not in this film. And it's not really until Michelle Pfeiffer turns into Catwoman that Bruce starts popping up. Speaking of Michelle Pfeiffer's character, Selina's death is so fucking stupid. And also, she's incredibly stupid. Like, why'd she tell Schreck about those confidential files? I don't know. Like, even if he weren't a murderer, she would have been fucking fired. She's like, oh, I went looking into the confidential files, and Shrek's like, and what'd you find in there? Like, oh, aren't you promising? And I'm like, he could have just hit you with an NDA, but like, look, you had no business in there. No matter what's in there, like, you had no business saying anything. I'm about to sue the fuck out of you. He could have just did that. And like the real world, he'd have just been like, I'm suing the fuck out you. Or you gonna sign this NDA and you gonna shut the fuck up forever. But nah, she had to just tell everybody everything. And then he shoves her out of a building. She falls like through several floors of scaffolding before smacking into the ground and dying. And for reasons that are never, ever explained, she gets cat powers. They don't tell you why. They don't tell you how. Just a whole bunch of cats start swarming around her. And it's not even like, it would have been one thing if she had been weird and had a shit ton of cats. No, yeah. She had one cat at the house. One. Just like a regular person would have a pet. She has one cat, but apparently her bond with that one cat is just so great that like an army of cats just swarm around her and are like, this isn't fair. We're going to give you 9 lives. And I mean, like, to my knowledge, in the comics, she never had this before. She's just been a regular ass thief. But this, boom, they give her 9 fucking lives. And I'm going to come back to that 9 lives thing in just a minute. But like, and then the other thing is, by the way, she shows up and like her first scene as Catwoman, she shows up and beats up a criminal. And in like 2 minutes, I was like, she did more cool shit than Batman did in that whole damn last movie. She was kicking the shit out of him, backflips and everything. Hella backflips, because apparently she was in the Catwoman costume. She could not walk. Like, I don't know if she couldn't walk literally, but like she never wanted to walk. Everywhere she went, she flipped. She'd flip into a scene, backflip out of a scene. You're like,
giving that stunt actress some work.
Man, whatever they paid that stunt actress, they should have doubled it because they made her earn that salary. Like, god dang, it was ridiculous. And then like, let's go ahead and get to it. About 50 minutes in, we get to Max Schreck's big plan. Because early on in the film, Max Schreck, he's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to build this new electrical facility so we can give Gotham some more power. To which everybody, the mayor, Bruce Wayne, everybody's like, we don't need any more power. We produce a surplus of power. Why would we need a new plant? Which, of course, his actual plan is to build a plant that sucks power from Gotham, presumably, so he could sell it back to him later at jacked up prices. But like, he's finally like, here's my big plan. I'm going to steal Gotham from the mayor. By doing that, and to do that, I'm going to make Penguin into the mayor. And for a minute, not only is it ridiculous, but it's also the most uncomfortable, slimy scene of the entire film. Because like Penguin he goes up to see Penguin, and Penguin's doing his own thing. He's like dressed in his dirty ass outfit. He's clearly like away from society, trying to be left alone. And Shrek is just like, hey, you want this? And he dangles some fucking raw fish in front of his face, to which I'm like, man, if he could set himself up in that building, like, why couldn't he just go get some fish? Like, why would he need, I don't know. But like he dangles a fish in front of him and gets him to come downstairs, and it's like a room full of people, just this skeevy ass political planners trying to manipulate him into doing Shrek's bidding. And for a moment in my head, I was like, damn, like this is fucked up. They really shouldn't be treating this man like that. But then there's a sudden shift in the film, and my sympathy for Penguin vanishes. Shrek introduces him to like his two assistants, to who's gonna be Penguin's two assistants, and one of them is like a jerk, and Penguin rightfully just bites his fucking nose off, and I'm like, you know what, fair, like, because the dude was like, I guess they don't have mirrors in the sewer, and he was like, yeah, you know, I guess they don't, because you know you'd have a bloody nose. He's like, what do you mean by bloody nose? He just bit the dude's fucking nose, damn near bit it off. I was like, yeah, fuck that guy. But then like right after that, Shrek is like, you know, we got to get rid of the mayor, but if we get rid of him, someone's got to fill the void. And that's when it happens. 52 minutes and 19 seconds in, Penguin says something that flips the film completely. Penguin, mouth covered in blood, having just eaten a raw fish ravenously in front of everybody, some shit no regular human does, and wearing a giant fucking person-sized diaper, looks over at the girl and is like, I'd like to fill her void. And from that moment on, this film became horny as fuck. I'm like, what the fuck? Suddenly, Penguin can't get through not one line of dialogue around women without trying to talk about how he's trying to slide him some tip. And at no point does he look like he's wearing clothes he didn't find somewhere in a sewer. But for whatever reason, he think he can rizz up any girl he talking to. And then he fails miserably every time, which is why Catwoman was like, I wouldn't touch you to scratch you, which I thought was cold shit. And I'm like, dang, like, what the fuck is going on? And speaking of Catwoman and horny, Selena take her horny ass over to Bruce's place. They sitting down flirting. And I'm like, I appreciate them for at least acting like the last movie didn't happen. Because Bruce starts talking about Vicky. They're sitting down in front of the fireplace. It's a real cozy scene. He starts talking about what happened to Vicky, why she left. And Selena's like, you know, what happened? Because Bruce says something about duality and basically talking about a double life. And Selena's kind of trying to figure it out. She's like, is he a cheater? Does he like gamble? Does he wear a gimp suit at night, parade around the freaks of Gotham? I don't know. Let's find out. And Bruce says, and I quote, you know, if I tell you the truth, you might think I'm like Ted Bundy or Norman Bates, and then you wouldn't want to kiss me. And her silly ass says, sickos never scare me. At least they're committed. And then they make out. I'm going to run this back. He compares himself to fucking serial killers, and she makes out with him anyway. I'm like, bro, what the fuck is going on? Why is this film so damn horny?
I guess it's like in real life how some people are turned on by serial killers. Like the charisma's too strong, I guess.
I guess so. She was Harley Quinn before Harley Quinn. She like was trying to find out about this man, found out, like was realizing like, oh, he might be a total weirdo, but I don't care because he looked like he give out some good dick. I'm like, all right, okay, whatever. But then they separate before it goes too far, and then they wind up meeting again in costume later on where they have this massive fight. And I gotta say, I really do enjoy Catwoman's fights with Batman. Yeah. She get one time to pull that, but I'm a woman bullshit. And after that, it was up. Then Batman and Catwoman was beating the fuck out of each other in this movie. And also, speaking of beating the fuck out of each other, I never want to hear anybody that like these films say anything about the MCU ever again in life. That man, Batman, showed up to save that ice princess from getting kidnapped. And Catwoman was like, did somebody say fish? I hadn't been fed all day. And Batman's goofy ass was like, eat some floor. It's high in fiber. This corny motherfucker's supposed to be the Dark Avenger, but it sounds like he spent all them years instead of training, learning some damn jokes. What the fuck is going on around here? Speaking of Batman, and his like, he got to fix his armor. Because anytime he gets shot, he fall over. He just damn near useless. I'm like, bro, it's cool that it stopped the bullets, but you need to keep going. You need to keep being able to fight. Because once you fall over, that's your ass, Mr. Postman. I don't understand what the problem was. There's a part in here where Catwoman starts working with Penguin for like about 15 to 20 minutes. It don't make no damn sense. She like, oh, I got to get rid of Batman. I'm like, for what? He hadn't stopped none of your plans. You got it his way. If you had just continued to steal shit and stay underneath the radar, he'd have never noticed you. Like, there wasn't even time for her to get in the film, for her to get in the papers. Like, mysterious cat burglar goes around stealing all the most valuable shit. She didn't have time to do none of that. She like went and found that nigga and was like, yo, what's up, Batman? And then got her ass beat, and then she was mad. She like, I gotta get him out of here. Like, no, bitch, you need to go ahead and keep stealing and mind your business. That's what you need to do. Then she get mad at Penguin because he a weirdo. And I'm like, you didn't know he was a weirdo? Then again, her goofy ass ate a canary. What's up with all the animal eating in this film?
That shit was wild.
Know.
Like she did spit
was,
him out
bro.
because he threatened the cat, but it's like, why? Like
He said she wasn't weird enough, and he was like, and she was like, "Oh, I'll show you weird. It's a Tim Burton film. I won't be out weirded." It's like, all right, man. None of this is necessary. But all that said, like, I do really like Selena and Bruce's relationship here, more than Bruce and Vicky.
Oh yeah.
I found it more believable than that. Like,
Yeah.
the only part I didn't like was that tail end where he was like, "Oh, you know, we're the same." I'm like, Bruce, you don't know her that well. Like, she don't know your origin, you don't know hers. Like, I understand that you feel kindred spirits because y'all both feel like y'all weird. Y'all both go out at night. Y'all both wear dark ass rubber outfits. Okay, cool. Y'all got the same BDSM fantasies. That's cool. And you could like bond over that, but like none of this, oh, I feel like we're the same. Like, no. But I did love how Bruce and Selena, they realized each other's secret identities, and even Selena was sad because as soon as she realized, she's like, does this mean we have to fight again? And like, it was both humorous and sad at the same time. So I fuck with that. Speaking of fighting, this movie violent as shit. In a cool way, I was fine with it, but like Batman kills at least 2 people that I know of.
Yep.
One, he lit one on fire, and then the other one, he like chucked a bomb on that man's chest and shoved him into like a sewer. Dude blew up. I'm sure it was had that grin on his face. I'm like, bro, body parts everywhere down there. And I guess Tim Burton just did not give a damn about it. He was like, I don't care nothing about that Batman doesn't kill bullshit. Like, my Batman is killing some motherfuckers. And then, of course, like, despite that, there are also some scenes where people should be dead, but they don't die. Like in that scene at the charity ball or whatever, and Penguin blew up the bottom of that floor, and there are people just flying everywhere, and then they get up like they just kind of daisy. I'm like, nope. Those people got blown away at like 30 miles per hour into the nearest wall. They are fucking dead.
There's also like a lot of people love just standing around looking like, like like anytime there's a hole and something's going down, like people just like, oh, what's going on there?
What's over there? Like
why
would you want to know?
Standing there for?
Get the hell away from me. Also, this movie is like incredibly toyetic. I don't know if anybody else spotted that. But like if you go to the wiki page, they talk about how this movie is supposed to be anti-commercialist, but there are so many more toys in this film than in the first film. Batman's dumbass Batmobile.
Yeah.
Fuck did they rig the Batmobile? They ain't never seen that tech before in their life. Just a bunch of fucking circus freaks looked at that man's Batmobile. First off, they had the plans. I'm like, how the fuck y'all find the plans? Just from looking at the Batmobile, did you like figure it out? Did you steal them from somebody? Like, how the fuck did you find the plans? Then, despite they shouldn't know how the fucking Batmobile work, it should all just be guesswork. So then they take the bitch apart while Batman is doing like for what couldn't have been no more than like 10 or 15 minutes that Batman was away. They took the whole Batmobile apart, put it back together, plugged in some shit, added a TV screen and like a whole fucking remote control bomb at the bottom. I'm like, how in the fuck did y'all do any of this? How did you figure any of that bullshit out? Like, that part, it didn't even need to be in the film.
You know what? Maybe that'll teach Bruce to stop parking his shit just any old where.
I know, right?
It's like if you live in Chicago, you park your car on like just the side of the street and you come out, it's like, where my rims go? It's like, you parked it in the wrong spot. Maybe that'll teach you next time. Park it somewhere better.
I mean, that's facts, but like, and don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. There is a scene in old Batman, which is by this time it would have been like maybe the comic would have been like 5 or 6 years old, where Jason Todd steals the rims off the Batmobile. But, and I'm cool with it, but like this is supposed to be a much more technologically advanced Batmobile. He like sealed it up, and somehow they unsealed it. I'm like, how in the fuck y'all do that?
No, you're absolutely right. Like they had no business getting into it, and it's stupid for real.
All for just so they can sneak the Batmobile in there, because of course they got to sell the toy. and his dumb Batmobile that can turn into like a bat luge or whatever the fuck that shit was. We like jettisoned off the sides and slid down that hole. I'm like, how in the who? At what point would this have ever been useful? Like, why wouldn't you just ride a bat motorcycle if that was the case? Like, what the fuck is going on? Then he got a bat ski plane. What's up?
Why in the blue hell was that one spot in the city just like that? That's the better question.
There are a lot of spots, like, basically it could have gone down a lot of, like, really tight spots that most people can't go down. And I'm like, that's cool. But, like, if that's what you want, just get a motorcycle.
They look like they're just connected to the next street. Like, you just turn and you're there. That's what that looked like to me. That wasn't an alleyway. That was just like, let's pass between these two close buildings that we just happen to put right next to each other.
I will say metropolitan areas, especially like old ones, a lot of times the building zones, like before building zones came along, you had different buildings that didn't match go up. And so you do have like some weird areas in the city where it's like mixed match and like the building codes shit don't make sense and it just look weird. And you definitely would have had more of that in the 90s because like now the like codes are like pretty much set in stone. They've torn down more buildings, but back then you didn't have that. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but I do agree that it's that scene is just in there to sell the fact that the Batmobile can break in two, and you know you got the little small part in the middle, the bat penis. Then he got the bat ski plane, a remote control Batarang. The Penguin got multiple umbrellas. He got that floating rubber ducky vehicle. His toys left and right. I remember because I owned like half of them or more at some point. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of toys in this bitch. And like a lot of times they used to sell toys, and then you'd be like, as a kid, you'd watch the movie and be like, I don't see those toys in this movie. Yeah, that problem here. They made sure everything was in here. And like the ending of this film is absolutely insane. In the most what's my man's name? 1960s Batman kind of way. With extra violence. Because Penguin decides to kill all the firstborn sons in Gotham, which is sexist. But then again, he's already horny as fuck, and his respect for women was at an all-time low. So I guess it makes sense. And the other thing, Batman, way more effective in this film than the last film. He sucked in the last film. Like, he would always show up too late. He would never get a chance to do anything cool. This time, he, like, foiled the Penguin's plans twice. Because, like, the Penguin was like, oh, I'm going to pick up all the kids and stop them from doing this. And Batman was like, no, you're not. Well, I'm going to send out these penguins with rockets on their shoulders. And they going to blow up the city. And Batman, once again, was like, no, you're not.
You're going to just, like, all your comrades, you're just going to send your little homies just out there just to die, essentially.
He gave a speech. He said, look, some of y'all ain't going to make it back here. I'm like, shit, if they blow up, ain't none of them going to make it back. What do you mean? But he sent them out there and said, hey, man, I'm going to send y'all out here, destroy the city, expected casualties. And this is how you know it was a 1992 film. 130,000. I'm like, man, that's so low. That city is like a metropolitan. It should have been in the millions, but whatever. It's so stupid. Like, the whole end of scene is so fucking dumb, but it works because it's setting up stakes and shit. And so I like that part. I will say the only thing, like one thing that's really good about this film, and I looked like when I was looking at the Wikipedia article, they brought this up too. The performances in this movie are great, top to bottom. Max Schreck plays his role really well. Christopher Walken, I was like, damn. I normally just think of you as like a meme, but like he was doing his thing in that one. He felt like a creepy, sleazy ass businessman, always looking for a way to take advantage and get over on somebody. Penguin, you know, if he wasn't so horny, he would have been tragic. You know, he was done a bad turn in life and treated like shit by society. And even the part where he like finally, and this was actually really cool when he like, I'm not like, because once Batman tricked him and got everybody to realize like, oh, this man, he like trash. Like they played the little clip or whatever. I don't know why he did his DJ bit on the CD. I don't know. And they made the sound sound effect too. I'm like, CDs don't even work like that. Like, what the fuck? Whatever. But like once he did that, Penguin was just like, well, the people then turned on me. Fuck it. I'm not Oswald Cobblepot. I'm the Penguin. I'm a monster. I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, oh, okay. That's really tragic. And he like Danny DeVito played the fuck out of that. Yeah. The rendition of Bruce Wayne that Michael Keaton's doing, he's not a good Bruce. He's a good version of his Bruce. Yeah. Like everything he does, I believe. His Batman is straight. Except I don't know why at the end he revealed his identity to Shrek. I don't understand. Like, I understand.
I thought that was so stupid. It's like I get doing it with Selena, but the bad guy's right over there. What are you doing?
Right.
Take the nigga to jail
What?
first and then reveal your identity. I don't know what the fuck was going on. And also, she knew who you were, so there's no reason to take off that mask. Like, I don't understand. Like, well, and then what if you had convinced her to take that nigga to jail, then what was the plan? Because you was gonna have to vanish. You couldn't be Batman no more because, like, he knew who you were. Your life was over with. But then again, I think back to the beginning of the movie where they were flashing the bat signal, and like, instead of him just having the bat signal shown, multiple bat signals just showed up at his house.
Yeah.
And he was like, I guess I should go. I'm like, I guess don't nobody visit you. I guess.
I had the same train of thought. I was like, so you just have 2 signals like right outside your house. If somebody comes there, they'll just see those signals and it's like, yo, why you got bat signals here? Like
what's going on here?
But then
are
again,
you Batman?
But then again, maybe not. Because when like Bruce took off the mask in front of Max Shrek was like, why you dressed like Batman?
Yo, Gotham is dumb. When we get to my part, I'm gonna talk about how stupid Gotham is, man. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna let you do that, brother.
Selena refusing to let go of her revenge. I liked that. The fact she just couldn't get over it. I thought that was cool in a tragic way. I didn't like the way the 9 lives thing worked though. Because like some of the deaths, I'm like, these not real deaths. Like when he shot her the first 2 times, she was like, oh yeah, I'm down 2 more lives. I'm like, no, you just be down 1. Like if it killed you, you'd fall down, you'd be down 1. And then you got back up, you'd be down 1 more. But like that's not like you got 4 bullets, that's not 4 a lot. Like what? And then like she fell once and lost her. I'm like, I guess like that don't seem like it would have killed. I don't know. I wasn't buying a lot of that shit, but whatever. And then she killed him in the dumbest, most overly dramatic way possible. Instead of just like, I don't know, using your strength because you're clearly stronger than you used to be, or slitting his throat, or anything you could have done, you like kissed him, but with the fucking taser that you picked up off that first red triangle nigga, and then like held on to an electric transformer and fried the both of you. You could have lived. There was no reason for you, like, and that's the thing, because like I could have seen it if there was something that pushed her over the edge. I understand you wanted to kill him. That makes sense. But there was nothing extra to make you do what you did to go to that extreme. Like maybe if you had seen him like get away with everything and he was going to be the hero and then you was like, nah, I can't let that happen. I would have been like, okay, this is believable. But instead it was just like, Bruce was like, hey, you know, I actually really fuck with you. We can go off and be happy. We could just take this bitch ass nigga to jail and that would be it. And she was like, nah, none of that. I got to kill myself in the process of this. Like, well, what? I understand they wanted a dramatic big finish, but like if you do that and you don't set it up properly, it don't make any sense. And that's the real problem is like so many parts of this movie just don't make sense. If I had to rate it, I would say, damn, what did I give the last one?
Was it like a 6 maybe?
If I get whatever I gave the last one, this is a tick better. So if I gave that a 6, then this is a 7. But what I really want to do is something I do on my enemy list all the time. Is when I rate something new, I go back and see something old, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't like this as much as I like that other thing. And so I'll wind up downgrading the other thing and being like, bop, bop. And it's like, so actually Batman's a 5, this is like a 6.5. Because like this ain't it's not a good film. Batman Begins blows both of these films out of the water, and the less said about comparing this to Dark Knight, the better. So I'm gonna just go ahead and leave it at that. And next, I'm gonna let Terrence go and see what he got to say. I want to hear it, man.
All right, I'm pulling up my notes on this one.
All right.
Man,
do what you do.
So okay, so I will say when we started the intro and I started saying like, oh, you know, this hadn't aged well and everything. I will say this, like, I don't think that this is a bad movie, but well, let me start off with this. I'll say that I always heard that this movie was like weird and grotesque. Like that was like the description of it. Yeah, is that a lot of people would say like this is like the weird Batman movie and grotesque. And on the surface, I can see why it's perceived that way. I don't think that those are necessarily bad things. What I think is bad about the weird and grotesqueness is how odd things are executed in this movie. And you hinted at that a lot, Sage, is that there are just certain things that the way that they're done in this movie is like, you just wonder like, why is it this way? Like it could have been done so much better. It's like the groundwork that's laid here is actually interesting. Like if we start off with like with Penguin's story, just the fact that he's been abandoned as a child, and you have like that contrast between him and Bruce in regards to how like Bruce, you know, he lost his parents at a young age, and in the case with the Penguin, you know, he didn't lose his parents the same way, but he grew up without parents. And had they made the whole mayor thing, I feel like that didn't need to be a thing. Like you honestly could have just had his struggle of growing up without his parents and like growing up under these penguins for whatever reason, however that worked out. And like him dealing with learning about maybe like what happened to his parents, which I mean, they didn't go into detail about that. And, you know, ultimately they didn't really need to, because that wasn't like the important part about it. But I don't know. I just feel like there may be a little bit more that could have been done with that. I just feel like going from the parents to the mayor plot, just there was no real like.
I mean, I think the mayor part is cool.
You do?
But I think it would have been cooler if Max Shrek just wasn't there.
Like him as a character wasn't there?
Yeah, like they waste a lot of time on that character who he's kind of underdeveloped too.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But like I think it would have been cool if Penguin had done I'm gonna try to be part of Gotham, and I'm gonna, you know, take my birthright. Like maybe he found a way to kill his parents or something like that, and then he takes over for him. He's like, I'm their long lost son. And then, you know, he comes back to Gotham. He's like, I'm gonna help clean up Gotham. And then he all of a sudden is like, yeah, you know, I heard there's a recall going on. I want to run for mayor. Gotham, I want to save Gotham the way Gotham saved me. You could have done a lot of that. And then once you get to the part where Bruce fucks all that up, and then he's like, oh, well, now I'm turning on Gotham. Fuck this. I was always mad at y'all anyway because y'all destroyed my life. That would have been a compelling story. But like the way that they set it up, yeah, I agree that it was just done unnecessarily.
So here's my beef. Is like, and yeah, the way you described it works. The way they did it does not work. That's the thing, is like doing something, the whole mayor concept. First off, what sets it up from failure from jump, and they even said this in the film, which makes it even more stupid, is that they said the elections just happened. So him running for mayor is like, you can't do that. You can't just.
There was some kind of like, at the very beginning, there's a line. It's like almost a throwaway line, but it's actually kind of important, where they talk about how there's enough screwiness with the election that he could get a recall. And if there's a recall, you'd have to, like, of course, do the election kind of over again. And then like the guy, Shrek tells, I forget who he's talking to. Oh, the mayor. The mayor tells Shrek, like, yo, I mean, you could do that, but you don't have a candidate, so it'd just be a waste of time.
Yeah, and I still don't think that I still think that is stupid. I think the way they set up is very dumb. Just even us talking about it is like they put too many holes in it to make it work from jump. Like the way that you described it in terms of Penguin coming in, and maybe had he wanted to run from, like, if the elections were currently happening and he jumped into the race, yes, had he jumped into the race then and like slowly won over the public's favor by doing good deeds or something like that, then that would have made more sense. But him jumping into an election that's already over under false pretenses, it doesn't set up things good to begin with.
They wanted a Christmas film, but we all know that at Christmas, all the elections are already over with.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Even the Christmas
Penguin
vibe.
actually mentioned that. Penguin mentioned that when Shrek was trying to talk him over this whole thing. He was like, it's like late December. Wasn't it supposed to have been in like November?
Yeah.
He straight up says like elections are in November. It's December right now, which is wild. Like he knew a lot about the surface world for somebody that was never on the surface. It's weird.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they flushed history books down the sewer and he learned that way. He said, whatever people flush is what I get. So, yeah. Overall,
what I treasure, to which I was like, so you treasure shit? I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, overall, like I just don't think that Penguin story was like it. There's a lot more that could have been done there. And going from that, going into Catwoman's story, like that's also like just bizarrely executed. One, her gaining powers that just makes no sense whatsoever.
No
like you said, Sage. Like it's not like she was bit by a radioactive cat or anything. She was literally just like licked and I guess bit on the fingers by just normal cats. And
it's not even like she came in contact with like a mystic person who placed the cat curse on her or something. Like none of that shit.
Yeah, it's not even like it's almost like they kind of did the same thing in a sense with Poison Ivy and Batman and Robin, where she's kind of like, even like the way she's transformed, I would buy that over the way Catwoman's transformed, because at least in Poison Ivy's case, she was like dumped into like a bunch of chemicals and it all mixed with the plants, and so yeah, she just became Poison Ivy that way. But in the case of Catwoman, it just makes no sense at all how any of that worked, and it's not like her powers aren't explained. Like, I guess she gains like the agility of a cat, and just
they sure never said. She just was suddenly, and they also sort of kind of hinted that maybe she wasn't entirely in control of her own actions. Like, because there's certain lines where she's like, I don't know who I am anymore and stuff like that.
Oh, stuff like that. I guess that's a matter of like, the fact that she's like this cat human hybrid, I guess now is like, I don't really know. Kind of like when somebody gets superpowers, they're like, I don't know if I'm like human anymore in like the traditional sense. That's the way that I took it. I will say, just like Penguin, Catwoman's story has interesting groundwork. Because I mean, for one, from jump, when she's introduced, she's facing sexism from her boss and like the men around her. And when she goes to her apartment, she talks about how she's not married. The guy that I guess she was seeing just ran out on her. She's getting shit from her mom. So there's just a lot that's going on in her life, and you can understand why she would feel some type of way about, the men around her and just the way that life has treated her in general. Specifically just Max, just because, yeah, he just always looked down on her. But even then, it's like they kind of, hers, I feel like maybe gets a little bit better closure than Penguin's in a sense, at least in my opinion, just in terms of how she at least in the end still faces down Max, even though it feels like that's kind of left alone for a little bit in the film. Yeah. But yeah, at least she's the one who takes him out in the end. So I will give them that. But yeah,
know what the problem is?
What's up?
It's the same problem as Spider-Man 3. It's too many damn villains.
I feel like I feel like it all could have had it been streamlined better, it could have worked. Cause like, at least Max, I do think that Max, ultimately he serves the purpose of giving Catwoman someone to, I guess, hate, but I do agree that he's not really developed that much. He's essentially just, evil bad guy number 34, like evil rich bad guy number 34, which, I mean, I guess for a city like Gotham, you have to have somebody like that. That's, the face of it all. Gotham PD and security in this, man, they are some bums. Like, they don't exist in this film. Like, for all the gatherings that are in this film, there is not a lick of security there until like the very end, when things
shit start going wrong.
Yeah, once things have gone wrong, then maybe they'll show up. And then at that point, it's like, what, 3 guys that are pretty much come to handle the situation. It's like, yo,
Gordon is somehow always on the scene.
We only take home 300 after payday.
Like, where are the security? Like, how are people just sneaking up on the mayor, taking his child and running off with it? Like, what are we doing here? Like, there's no way I'd live in this city. Like, this city is just so unprotected without Batman. And like, Batman obviously just isn't going to be there in the middle of the day. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because that plan sucked so much. There was just no excuse for how that plan played out. Like, a flippy dude shows up, grabs the mayor's child from him. No one stops him. He flips away. Yep.
Look down the hole.
He flips down into the sewer, and then it's down there for all of 5 seconds, literally. And he looks at Penguin. He's like, "You're that scary penguin creature. Take the baby. Just leave me alone." Ah! And it's like, bro, this badass acting, like everybody should have immediately been like, okay, what type of setup, what type of game is this man running? But like you said, everybody in Gotham dumb as hell.
Yeah, and I mean, that even goes to the citizens. Like, the citizens in Gotham are like fickle AF. Like, for one, the fact that they turned on Penguin so quickly when it was obvious, like, for one, none of them questioned, like, okay, where are these lines coming from? Like, what's the context here? Penguin, like, he wasn't even like, the lines weren't even lip syncing to him. So it's not like he was saying it live. Like, they just instantly turned on him without questioning at all. Like, was this rigged? Like, did somebody doctor those lines or anything like that?
Well, you know, this before the modern era. Like, if you did this in a modern era and you didn't have direct footage, people would be like, I don't believe it. Or they might be like, it's AI, even if you did have direct footage.
Even then, you could like splice stuff, but just hearing that live, you wouldn't just immediately be like, boo. It'd be like, wait, what's like, explain yourself kind of thing. They just instantly turned on him. And even,
where'd the garbage come from?
Huh?
Where'd the garbage come from?
What garbage?
When they started
pelting when they threw well, he even said that. He was like, why do people always bring vegetables or whatever he said to
like
just in case this shit go bad. I'm about to.
Yeah. You already talked about how Bruce you're right in that Michael Keaton, he plays a good version of his Bruce. Like, I'll put it that way. That might be weird to say, but I can't really compare him to the other Bruce Waynes that we've had just because they're written better. Like, that's really the problem with this film, is that you are right, Sage, that the casting is actually quite good here. I thought that everybody did a great job with their characters, but the way their characters are written and the way that the script, the plot, everything comes together, it just doesn't.
They killed it with the material they were given. The problem is that the material they were given sucks.
Yeah, it just wasn't written that well. Yeah, I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer was actually great as Catwoman. Danny DeVito, great as Penguin. Yeah, like, I enjoyed everybody in their roles, but I just feel like this film just really could have been written better. Now, the things that I will say that were good, the production and set design, I will have to give, Tim Burton that. Like, the way Gotham looks, it looks amazing. Like, it look not amazing in terms of like it's a place I want to live, but just from a film perspective, it's very distinct and it has a look that's unlike any other, which links also into the cinematography, just like with the swooping camera angles, the way stuff is like, just the way that the movie is filmed is shot very well. Also, the fight choreography here is much better than the first film. The first film felt like amateur hour in comparison to this. Like,
it's like they went and found an actual fight scene choreographer for this.
Yeah.
Because like that scene where he was fighting Catwoman, I was like, wow, this is infinitely better than all of the fight scenes that we had in the last film.
Yeah, it's much better than the last one.
If they plant, because like the suit is still rubbery as fuck. I don't think he can turn his neck yet, but like it don't matter. Like, they were still boxing in that bitch. I was like, okay, I see what y'all got. Like the other one, it was like, I don't know when. Like it's only a difference of 3 years, but it feels like it takes place in another decade, like literally 10 years later.
Yeah, they must have increased the mobility in his suit in some kind of way, because yeah, at least he was like punching people and able to move around a little bit better. So something good must have happened in that regard. Yeah, I guess the last thing that I'll say, which isn't really a good thing, but I didn't mention it before, is just for me the way that when they have like the whole plan to frame Batman, I actually like the idea of framing Batman, but it doesn't go anywhere.
If you're gonna do that, it needs to be like basically most of the film.
Yeah, it needs to actually be a strong part of the film. Like, they didn't do anything with it, because like Batman, like him being framed for like running over citizens and like running into cop cars and committing property damage and everything, like that's actual stuff we saw him do. Now, unlike the Penguin, where you're just hearing dialogue and you're like, you should realistically be like, where is that coming from? In the case of Batman driving the Batmobile, you saw him get in there. You see him behind the wheel. There's no way that the citizens could know that that's not actually him controlling it. And even if he says that, it's only his word. So like, yeah, that really could have been a much stronger part of the film, like the whole framing of Batman, because I think that would have like put him more in like a fugitive light, in the same way with the Dark Knight Returns, not Dark Knight Returns, but Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, the Dark Knight Rises is that he's like framed as more like a fugitive in that movie because of what happened at the end of the Dark Knight. I feel like that could have been done somewhat similar here, but they chose not to do it that way.
Plus, he never even convinced people that he didn't do any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
They just forgot.
Yeah, exactly. They went nowhere with it. Yeah.
they was like, oh, well, we hate Penguin now. So I guess, like you said, they just fickle because like they was like, oh, we hate Penguin and we can only hate one person at a time. So I mean, Batman, you off the hook because right now it's fuck Penguin. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, overall, like I really feel like this film has some interesting concepts, but it's just executed in such an odd way that it's really hard to recommend this to anyone if you hadn't like if you want to watch it, I mean, you hadn't seen it before, you know, by all means go for it. But after you watch it that initial time, it's like I can't really recommend repeated viewings of this. Like I just don't think it's that good of a movie unless there's just something that you connect with in that regard, or maybe you just like watching some of the performances. I guess for a score for me, if I recall correctly, I gave Batman 89 a 6. This one, I'm not gonna lie, I don't feel like it's really a better film per se, because I feel like the stuff that's better doesn't make it like. I'll just say that I'll put it on the same
in different ways.
I'll put it on the same level. I'll say it's a 6 as well, because I feel like the things that work in Batman, the things that are bad in Batman, they are bad, but you can still watch that. Whereas this, there's like things that it's pretty much along the same lines. It's like there's some things that are good here, and then there's some things that are bad here. They're like both good and bad in their own ways, and I can't really recommend one over the other. Maybe I'd recommend Batman 89 over this one just because Batman 89 is more accessible, but you know, that's just my opinion on it.
Okay. So we got, I think I said a 6.5, 7, 6.5. Like I'm somewhere in there. And you said it's basically just the same.
Yeah, you
quality.
said like 6.5 because you said you actually downgraded 89 to 5.
Yeah, I was like, man, this movie not like that shit was just. I just didn't like Batman 89. Like so much of it just didn't make. And then the lack of action is almost inexcusable. Like I understand you have to make a good film first, but like when you're making a superhero film, that implies a level of action, unless it's just not a hero that is action oriented. But like Batman is definitely is. And so like for them to have botched it on action so much, I'm like, man, I can't forgive that. And I couldn't forgive the weak ass relationship between Batman or between Bruce and Vicky. Although, before I let you go, Will, I do have to mention this. Man, Bruce would not let that shit go, would he? Bruce was like, Alfred said something about better security.
Oh, that was funny.
Like, who the fuck let Vicky into the Batcave? I'm over there working, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, Vicky, like, what the fuck?
I did find like some of the bickering between Alfred and Bruce to be pretty funny. So yeah.
I fucked with that. That was great. Will, what about you, man? What'd you think of the film?
Okay, so just to preface this, this movie came out in '92. You say, right? I was only a couple months old when that shit hit theater. So yeah. And I'm not the hugest Batman fan myself, but looking at this movie at least looking at it now, I do think it has a lot of good things about it. But as I watched the movie, I won't lie, I found myself laughing quite a bit at some of the stuff that was happening. But I also found myself questioning what I knew about Batman by watching this movie, because I know this is Tim Burton's take on it. But I won't lie to you, a lot of them Burtonisms definitely stuck out. From Penguin being in that sewer, being raised by penguins underneath the city. From Selina dying after hitting a couple scaffoldings from being pushed out the window by Shrek. And then this magical set of cats came around and said, "You shall live again." Or you know what, just to quote Bayonetta, "The shadow remains cast." Yeah. I couldn't get behind it because I actually had to look this up. I'm like, is this actually related to something that was actually written for Catwoman here? Because something don't fit. But apparently she based it on a graphic novel that was called My Sister's Keeper. I had to look it up. I had to look that up. It's called My Sister's Keeper, and I read a small premise of it. I see where it kind of got it from, but that's still something real supernatural just got placed right in the middle of Batman. I'm like, I know some stuff kind of happens, but this is just way left field. And the Penguin thing really threw me, because I'm like, nah, this man wasn't born no freak, because I know that the Penguin I've seen before in my time was a dapper man that had money in his pocket that wanted to do something.
The only weird thing was he always had like a long nose. That was it.
Oh yeah, that was it. I was like, they got the feature right, but everything else about him just felt wrong. I'm like, the Penguin's a monster, and he literally looked like a penguin at this point. He literally walking around in that big diaper that you called. But
I really don't like the fact that he never got like a good fit. Like he never really even tried to act like he was gonna be a human. Like he had that big scene where he's like, "I'm not a human, I'm a monster," and that was a good scene. But the problem was he never actually acted like he was a human. Like not really. Like he never had like a clean suit and like tried to. I would have loved a confrontation between him and Bruce where he's like almost outdoing Bruce at like the refined gentleman bit and all that shit. That would have been kind of cool before you like had that fall from grace. But I mean, we ain't have enough time. We got to give Christopher Walken some more lines.
Yeah, that was the other thing too, because I felt like when he was on screen, I felt like you said in the first first third or fourth of the movie, I felt like that was more his movie than it was Batman's.
Absolutely.
Because we were constantly following what he was trying to do most of the time, and I'm just like, I get it, but where's the namesake of this movie at? I get it. You want me to follow the big bad and what he's doing,
the bat signal.
Yeah, but I gotta wait for Bruce to pull up in the Batmobile and the Bat Luge and everything. You know what I'm saying? I gotta wait for him to pull up on all that. But he started really doing anything.
I ain't like the fact that Bruce, like, he don't go patrolling in this movie. Like, It ain't like he out there checking to see like what nonsense is going on. If they don't turn that bat signal on, he just at home eating crackers and watching television. Like he ain't doing no type of nothing. Like he don't put on the suit unless they turn the signal on. I'm like, Bruce, it could be somebody getting robbed. Like right now, they're not gonna turn the signal on for somebody getting robbed. Like, why don't you go stop that shit? He was like, nah, that's what they got the signal.
Also, Gotham PD ain't shit anyway. So I mean,
I promise
do they have the manpower to turn the signal on? They're never there. So why are they? Who's there to turn the signal on?
I mean, Gordon had a nigga for that. Remember they stopped because they like nonsense popped off, and he was like, turn that damn signal on. I'm like. It feel like Gotham PD just kind of fell off after Batman showed up. They was like, oh, well, if we got somebody else to do the job, and we ain't got to do it.
All right, turn the signal on. I'll sit in the car while he finishes this up, sip on my coffee. It's too cold out here in this dark-ass street. Yeah, Batman Returns. It's an interesting film. It ain't nothing I will sit down and watch again. But I feel like everyone did their part well, and I want to give like a lot of love to Danny DeVito. Because I feel like his portrayal of the Penguin and what they gave him, he took it and ran with it. And I'm just like, I like it. Like, how did you take this and just run with it like that?
I knew he was a good actor, but I had not realized how good he was until I was watching this. I was like, damn, you putting in a performance on this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, he's doing great here, at least until he ended up going like horny in the last 40 minutes of the movie. You know what I'm saying? Until he did that, I was just like, you were great there. Then you still great, but you had to say, oh, I feel overboard. Yeah.
I'm surprised nobody's brought it. Well, maybe you were going to bring it up, but I have to bring it up. There's the pussy I've been looking for.
Man.
That line, I definitely did not expect that line. Like, my goodness. Wow.
I knew I forgot something, but by that,
thank you, bro.
By that time, I was like, why is this film so... Like, by that time, I was, like, so used to the film being horny for no damn reason that when he said it, I was like, yep, there's more another sign of this movie being horny as fuck. Maybe that's why the parents didn't like their kids watching it, because it was, like, so fucking... Like, the violence was one thing, because I'm like, Batman blew up a whole factory, killed hella people. He was shooting guns at people last film. Like, they should have been fine with the violence, but, like, the sex stuff was like way over the line.
It was egregious in like the worst way possible, especially after that line Terrence mentioned. Oh my god! Like I looked away for a second to like continue working, but when he said that, I looked at the screen. I said, I know he didn't just say that. I know he didn't just spout that out confidently at Catwoman, who already ready to cut his face off. That's crazy to me. Oh, and speaking of Catwoman, you mentioned the armor for Batman. I want to talk about that little bit there. Yes, I'm gonna need Bruce to step it up on that armor, because how in the blue hell did those? I don't know how Selena made those claws. How in the fuck did they pass through his armor and he happened to have one in his side?
Well, I'll say this.
Talk to me, man, because I'm really curious.
It's the same as the Nolan films, bro. He's bulletproof, but he ain't stab proof.
God damn.
Remember Batman Dark Knight Rises? He was like, they kept shooting him up, and he was like, so I don't care about no bullets. And then somebody stabbed him between the plates or whatever. He was like, oh, nah, it's my only weakness. Like, all right, bro.
Damn, so Batman wouldn't survive in the UK. That's crazy.
If you run into them roadmen, he done out here, man.
Okay. Well, all right, but enough of me cracking the jokes on about little stuff like that. Other than that, I think it's an interesting film. If you want to get into it, sure. But I say this: if you are not a fan of the comics or anything relating to the continuity of Batman, by all means, sit down with this film, watch it. Michelle Pfeiffer, Danny DeVito, and Michael Keaton does his job as his version of Batman, as y'all say. They do great here, and Christopher Walken does too. Even if you kind of want to laugh every time he speaks because you know how he talks.
You know,
It's
actually,
fine.
he wasn't. He didn't do too much of that in this film. Like,
Yeah,
the
he
classic
didn't.
Christopher Walken diction. He didn't have that. He was just talking like a regular dude. He had a little bit, like a little hints of it,
Yeah,
but for
it
the most
slipped
part,
out
it
a
was
couple
just,
times.
you know, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I forgot you. You know, I thought you had to talk like the Family Guy character.
Yeah, I thought he did too, but it slipped a couple times. I noticed it because I started laughing when he started doing it. I was like, he forgetting he on set right now. But like I said, if you're not a fan of the comics or anything like that, and you want to try to get into Batman, this is not a bad film to watch just to get it in and get it out the way. But if you are a fan of the comics and you haven't watched this movie, don't
Keep not
sit
watching.
down. Do not sit down with this movie because you're gonna point out everything wrong with it. You're gonna be ready to curse out Tim Burton fast. So yeah, if I had to give it a rating, I'd have to sit it somewhere around a 5.5 for me. It ain't something.
Okay.
It ain't something that I'm gonna find myself watching again. It was interesting to watch because I never watched it, and like I told you, I was only a few months old when this thing came in the theater, so I didn't know nothing about it. But it's a movie.
You know what? I agree. Like, if the less of a fan of Batman you are, the more you might like this film because it gives off the feeling like it might be comic book accurate. And you wouldn't really know without having watched read any of the comics or watched the OG like 1992 cartoon. You wouldn't really know, and so you'd be like, "Yeah, it's Batman, right?" And it's like, "No, not really." But I mean, if you enjoyed it, that's fine. So like, I think that, and then man, it's crazy. Both of y'all said y'all wouldn't watch this film again. I would, but for the wrong reason. So maybe 6.5 is too high. Like, I would watch this again if I was like showing somebody, oh, you've got to see how stupid this film is. Like, you gotta watch this, like, just so we can make fun of this. Like,
I can agree to those terms, then. I can agree to that.
And so like that maybe 6.5 is too high because like you shouldn't be like for a 6.5, you shouldn't. I mean, I'm still stick with where it is, but like maybe you shouldn't be having it that high if the only time you can think of rewatching it is like to show somebody how dumb all the dumb parts are. Like the good stuff in it is not good enough to recommend this film.
Yeah.
Right.
At the end of it all, like there's not enough good to be like, oh, check it out for this. Like the performances are good, but like I said, like they do the best with what's given them, but what's given them isn't that good. So it's not like it's kind of like a better produced version and with better acting because it is movie actors, but a better produced version of CW's Flash. The Flash is fucking awful most of the time, but the actors are just so likable that it doesn't matter, and you kind of stick with the show, even though you like looking at it, you like another speedster villain. Who's the villain this time? They did what? Like it's like that. Like you just sitting there watching, and you like, why the fuck is this happening? Why did she come back to life? How did she die again? Like what? None of it makes sense. You just like as you watching it, you just like, oh, but I am kind of pulled into the performances. So there's that. Real quick, who's your favorite villain, Terrence?
In this movie?
Yeah.
I guess Catwoman didn't really feel like she's like an anti-hero, so I guess I'd give it to Penguin just because he has that rise and then that fall, and even though it could have been written so much better, the idea of him trying to fit in with society again, and then his fall back to being like the monster that he was perceived as, I think that makes for a good villain arc for him. And so yeah, I think he's probably the most interesting villain in this movie, just because he's like, Max is so stereotypical that I can't even really. No.
I mean, there are some interesting aspects to Max. Like he legit loved his son.
Yeah,
like,
he wanted to. I thought there was some kind of ploy behind that, but no, he just said, I'll take his place. Yeah.
Like he was just gonna give up his life for his son. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I don't know. Like, I feel like, and this is why I say there's too many villains, because like all three of those characters needed more time to develop, but there wasn't enough room to develop all three of them and like come in at 2 hours, because it's not like it's a long-ish film, but it's not like no 2.5, 3 hour behemoth. It's just like, hey man, some shit got to get cut, and so we gonna cut parts from. I assume they probably cut development parts from all three of them so that they can have like a more cohesive film, and that's the result. So, Will, who's your favorite villain?
Between all of them, I do agree with Terrence. Brother Shrek was definitely stereotypical. I mean, rich man, rich white man, blonde, bleach blonde, platinum blonde hair. You know what I'm saying? Calls all the shots, does all the little conniving puppeteering from the back, and I can live without him. But definitely Penguin for how he has been portrayed throughout this movie. Aside from like the little silly like nuances he had later on with him and whatnot, I like the way he kind of came off to everyone, how he came off to Shrek when he first met him down there in that area with those band of people with the red triangle and the penguins, and telling them everything you flush, I get. Like, he's just like, remember when you did this? Well, this your homeboy's hand right here. Oh, you remember when you flushed them files? Well, a little dedication got it right here. So by all means, I can get you in trouble if I wanted to.
So that scene was actually really cold.
Yeah,
aside from just the grossness of the sewer, like that scene was pretty cold. He's like, yeah, he's on vacation. First off, by the way, people can't keep missing around your company. Like, apparently that happened a lot with Shrek. Like, his former partner went missing. Oh yeah, he's on vacation. Like, no. And then like Selena Kyle, like, oh yeah, she's on vacation. Like, everybody not on vacation. Who works for you? Everybody just missing somehow. Like that sooner rather than later, he was gonna get caught himself anyway. I would say I wanted to say my favorite villain is Catwoman, and that's really the fault of the film, because they got so confused and they never really set her up the way that she didn't get enough development to be a convincing villain, and so she does fall into more of the anti-hero, even though she like does some evil shit. Like, it's not like she was robbing from the rich to give to the poor. She was just robbing and just causing chaos just for the sake of causing chaos. She was gonna frame Batman for no reason other than like, oh, he didn't pay no attention to me when I was Selena Kyle, and he fought me because I confronted him and tried to fight him first. Like, there was no reason for her to work with Penguin. She just did it, and then she allowed him to kill that woman for no reason. Like, she couldn't be strong enough as a villain. Shrek, I mean, like, if Shrek was not the only villain, but if he had been like part co-villain with one other person, that could have worked too. But the fact that he was sharing it with three does make him more generic. So I guess I do have to go with Penguin, just like y'all. They could have done his story a little better. But even with what we got, just the bare bones of the story of like his rise and fall, that was more interesting than what either of them had going on as far as being villains and whatnot. So, but yeah, that was Batman Returns. We hope y'all enjoyed the review. We will catch y'all on the next one. I hope y'all have a great time, and I hope y'all have a great week, and we'll see you.